Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the movie world space. It is I, your host with the most, who likes to cook French toast from the east to west coast, Roman RBC. And today we are on Roman's Movie Reviews podcast, episode 2, and I have a wonderful guest with me today. We've been chatting for a while now, really good friends in the movie space, really good teammates on Fortnite. Had to carry him a couple times, but on that day that he gets his first win, we're going to have a party. Mathieu, Chin, Kui, how's it going, man?
Carry me a few times. It's like, it's rarer for you not to carry me, but it's fun anyways because I'll learn a lot and have fun and get to talk to a really good movie fan and a good friend.
Yeah, thank you. So lots of things have been going on in the movie space, but before we get to that, it is a awesome holiday today. It is opening day for the baseball season. I know a lot of people don't like baseball this day and age, but Chicago Cubs are off to an amazing start, and you're a Blue Jays fan. So...
I am a Blue Jays fan. We're if all goes well this year, we could contend for a wild card spot, but as is tradition, Tulo's already on the 60-day DL list. And we face the Yankees in a couple hours, and they're really good this year, so hopefully.
Yeah.
And
the Yankees are dangerous, man.
We're like 0-6 in our last opening day games, so I'm not holding out too high hopes.
Yeah, it's going to be tough in the AL this year. The Yankees are clearly the front runners, but Houston's still good. They're still the champs, and you got to beat the champs, and that's going to be difficult. And you've got the Cubs and Nationals and Dodgers in the NL, which is always competitive, and it's going to be another good year. But the Cubs, man, I've been a fan since I was a baby. This is our time again.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool to have seen the break the curse couple years ago. That was by far, that Game 7 was one of the best big games of baseball I've ever watched.
Yep, easily. And I feel like I got a lot of people back into the baseball fold a little bit more because they kind of abandoned it after the whole steroid scandal in like the 90s and early 2000s and stuff like that. So, it's going to be a good year. I'm super, super excited. So...
Just wait till the inevitable injuries and trades come in.
Oh, yikes. Yeah. Things can change in an instant, man.
Yeah, that's baseball for you.
Yeah. So, anyways, I guess we'll just get into our first topic today. So, outside of some pretty good news this week, Ready Player One coming out, baseball season starting, Easter weekend right around the corner, obviously. And bad news is that Fox is having some trouble over at their studio once again with their comic book properties. And it looks like X-Men Dark Phoenix and New Mutants have been delayed even further. Now, X-Men Dark Phoenix was supposed to come out this year in November, the 2nd, and it got delayed to February 14th, 2019. And then New Mutants was supposed to come out, I think, this weekend or next weekend, and then they delayed it to August, and then they delayed it to April, and now it's... So it was delayed from April to February 2019, and it's kind of a mess over there, and we're not really sure what's going on too much outside of the fact that reshoots are going to be a problem. Apparently, they didn't plan them. We kind of talked about this the other day when we were chatting on Fortnite, but they didn't schedule the reshoots, it looks like, and again, like, their comic book properties are kind of in trouble, even though it looks like Fox and Marvel are going to be able to put their heroes all together in one big movie soon.
I can't help but think that maybe they might be trying to rework some stuff. Maybe this might actually be this is complete conjecture. Like, I'm just speculating. Maybe they've already had their first round of reshoots, but the second round that wasn't planned are coming through now because of that merger, and maybe they're trying to tie stuff in a little bit. I know New Mutants is trying to kind of set itself apart with its horror genre, but I still think that if you add some reshoots in there, you can tie it in. Throw in a little Stark thing in there, or Banner, or some little Easter egg to show that they're in the same universe now. Yeah. And then Dark Phoenix, I'm not really sure why they would need extra reshoots or why they didn't schedule them before. But like we were saying before, a lot of that cast probably is running into conflicts. First one off the top of my head I can think of is Sophie Turner. Actually, even for New Mutants, Maisie Williams and Sophie Turner, they're both tied up with Game of Thrones right now. the casts for each of them are super stacked and super with actors who are very, very busy and high in demand. You know, Jessica Chastain,
Sheridan.
Yeah, Ty Sheridan, James McAvoy. You know, that entire cast is in high demand and they're working a lot. So they really should have scheduled stuff earlier, unless it's because of this Fox Disney thing. But that could be wrong. Most likely is wrong.
Yeah, and you know, the Fox X-Men films, I love a good portion of them. Like Logan, Days of Future Past, First Class are all great comic book movies and some of my favorite in the genre. And now, again, they're having more issues and it's just giving people more fuel to add to the fire. Like, oh, Fox doesn't know what they're doing, but people tend to forget that they've made some of the best that we've seen yet. And I still believe in them. And Apocalypse was slightly underwhelming. It kind of met my expectations overall. But, you know, I am a little bit worried in the fact that not only did they delay one film on their slate, but two. And like that just says that you're kind of losing your grip a little bit if you're delaying because you didn't plan or schedule proper reshoots. And it can kind of turn into a mess, especially when, schedules conflict. I mean, even just look back at last year when Henry Cavill had to CGI his mustache for Justice League reshoots because he was having conflicts with Mission Impossible Fallout. And so it's been kind of a mess over there. But, you know, they've got really good talent on, and I still believe in them, and I still think that they've got a pretty good vision for the future. And I hope that they kind of stick true to their brand and don't kind of, you know, just say, oh, we're just going to get ready to just transfer over to Marvel. Just kind of do your thing. But before we move on to another topic or continue any further, I did make the mistake early on. So New Mutants was supposed to release next week or 2 weeks from now. They delayed it to February 2019, and then it just got delayed again to August 2nd. Not April to February, but April to February to August 2019.
Wow, New Mutants got pushed back a lot. It got pushed back a year and change, actually. That's I was thinking the Dark Phoenix one isn't too bad. It's 4 months.
Yeah,
that's a big change. You can shoot an entire whole new movie from that.
Exactly. And we got a New Mutants teaser, in like midsummer last year. And the trailer, I really dug it, even though it kind of had some cliche horror elements. It's like we haven't really seen that in the genre before, so I'm down with that. And now all of a sudden it's like fizzled out and completely gone. I mean, it'll reappear again. But again, I remember seeing that trailer last year and was like, this looks pretty good. And I'm excited to see Fox doing new and ambitious things with their stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's pretty much it for Fox. Gonna move on to the second topic here. Not in the superhero space, but talking about a sequel to one of my favorite science fiction action films of the last couple of years. But Emily Blunt says that Edge of Tomorrow 2 is getting a new script. So apparently they were in the process of, going through relooking at the first script. And she was saying that for the sequel, Live, Die, Repeat, and Repeat, which is just
is that actually the name?
It says here on Cinema Blend, while a script for Edge of Tomorrow 2 or Live, Die, Repeat, and Repeat, as it is apparently going to be called, does exist.
I think I just threw up a little in my mouth.
Yeah, it's a historically awful title. It's awful. But beyond that, she was just kind of talking about how, Doug Lyman here is kind of just saying that the sequel is going to have some really high concept stuff, and it's going to act as like a prequel and a sequel. And so that really intrigues me, but sounds way too ambitious, especially for a film that's a sequel to a film that made literally like $0 at the box office or close. And, it didn't really make too much back. And now you're really setting your ambitions high. You've got a great cast, of course. You've got Blunt, who's going to be in A Quiet Place next week, which looks fantastic. You've got Tom Cruise, who's been around for ages and everybody loves him. Well, movie star Tom Cruise, maybe not real life Tom Cruise. But, it says here that he's been singing praises of a concept for a long time. It's supposed to be something unique, and it sounds like it may be so different that it's going to be really hard to translate that original script. So they're kind of going back for rewrites. So what say you on this matter?
I think the concept of that of the sequel kind of serving as a sequel and a prequel, it's pretty cool considering what we know went down in the first one. Like kind of temporal warping sort of thing. And I think that's a really cool concept. I personally really like to gravitate towards movies that create those paradoxes. I love that type of stuff. The title, as I already said, makes me want to throw up, but everything about Edge of Tomorrow was a surprise, and I ended up loving it a lot. So I'm hoping that this one kind of meets its expectations, or even expands the world into a whole new level, because that it is a world that can be explored to another level, and hopefully expand the universe in a good way and not a bad way.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is I thought they built a really solid lore and mythos in the first film that made me say, wow, I really believe in this world and the creatures that they're fighting and the missions that they have to go on and stuff like that, and the technology that they have. And it's like, I really kind of hope they don't really defeat that with this one, and they don't make it too convoluted, because I feel like that's the one big word that they're going to try and have to hurdle when it comes to making this live, die, repeat, and repeat. It's that they really have to make sure that it doesn't seem too convoluted, because now if you have a prequel and a sequel, so what about Edge of Tomorrow 1 if it takes place in the middle? So like, you have a lot to account for there in a script. Maybe it works better as a visualization, and we'll see what happens. But again, I'm pretty excited though too, because I did love the first film, and I'm really excited to see where they go. But again, the ambitions are high. Doug Liman is a pretty inconsistent director this day and age, and I hope that he's able to, bring it around, because I feel like the more sci-fi, the better.
I actually have the thought of this just came into my mind of what the movie could be about. Them exploring, in terms of the sequel aspect, exploring, Tom Cruise's character and Rita Verbansky, I think is her name, Emily Blunt's character. Maybe there's another threat, and then because of the time warp, they have to go back, and you kind of see how Rita became Rita when she got her powers, or maybe her powers come back, and then she starts, resetting back to that time. So I'd be willing to put down some money thinking it's going to be somewhere along those lines.
Yeah.
When I hear prequel, that's might be what you wanna explore.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. I didn't even think about that, because one of the coolest parts about Edge of Tomorrow is, as soon as he gets into that world, Tom Cruise is just a guy. Like, he's not suited for this type of combat. And what's her nickname again? It's something bitch.
Something bitch.
Yeah. I don't really know what it is, but one of the coolest things is when he sees this big mural of her. It says she's this really badass person that's in high regard, and she kind of leads this army. I would kind of love to see how she kind of came to be, because again, that world and the lore that they built is something that I would like to revisit more of, because you only get Tom Cruise's perspective, and usually prequels I'm not too big on, but I would kind of love to see how she came into the front of everything, and I'd be down with that. And then the sequel part 2 would be kind of interesting, and maybe they coincide. Weird time travel stuff is going down, but yeah, I don't know, that does sound kind of interesting. I'd definitely be down with that. More Emily Blunt, the better too.
I think it was Full Metal Bitch. That's what it was.
Oh, there we go. You nailed it.
Totally. Not gonna lie, I searched that up. So
yeah. Well, okay then. I'm gonna have to take back all that credit I was about to give you. So let's go ahead and move on then into the next segment here. And not too much in the news this week. A couple movies did release, but I just figured I could take this time. I already pretty much know you on a level of what type of movies that appeal to you, but mainly this is just kind of for the listeners, not only to get familiar with your taste as a film fan, because I'm sure I'll have you on more in the future, and then just get familiar with my taste, so I don't always have to regurgitate my thoughts every once in a while on a week-to-week basis. So I'm kind of just going to ask you just some questions about movies that appeal to you, that don't appeal to you, movies you find underrated, overrated, movies you love, your favorite movies ever, favorite animation, stuff like that. And we'll kind of just spend some time here just talking about a wide variety of movies that maybe can split off into different tangents and rave or rant about certain things, and maybe even debate a little bit if something comes up.
We're probably going to debate. I already just thought of something that I know you're not going to like. So,
well, I'll try and be as reserved as possible and not let the mock trial version of me come out. Not that mock trial is a big deal, but I kind of took that stuff a little seriously. Anyways. So the first question, and it's the broadest question, it's a loaded question. What is your favorite movie or movies ever? It doesn't have to be your absolute favorite, but maybe it's just one that you revisit time and time again, that every time you watch it, you're like, wow, this is likely my favorite film ever.
I find that when a movie fan, like a hardcore movie fan like us, is asked that question, it's always the same answer. It's always, well, I don't really have one. It changes on the daily. It's more like a top five rather than just a one. Whereas like casual movie fan, they not that that's bad or anything.
Yeah.
They'll just have, you know, the one that they always come back to. But for me, it's a rotating cast. First one, always, it's going to be in my heart, the original Star Wars trilogy. Grew up on that. There's no, there's no other replacement to that, but I feel like that's a kind of staple answer for many movie fans around our age anyways. One, that I like to talk about a lot, and I'm sure you've heard me talk about, is Tarzan. The animated one from 1999 which I think is completely underrated. I think generally most people like it, but it's kind of almost forgettable for a lot of people. For me, maybe this has to do with the fact that I watched it literally every day, that and Lion King, or watched them every single day of my childhood. Like, I'm not even joking. It was on every day.
Yeah.
And I listened to the soundtrack, and I still listen to the soundtrack.
Well, it's a great soundtrack. Yeah.
Yeah. The past episode, or the latest episode of my podcast, we were, Dan Purcell and I were talking about the music in that and the themes of the film and how those are really great. And then rounding out the top five, obviously it includes Lion King, and Casablanca is another one, another classic that many will point to, but I don't know. It's just something about that relationship in that movie. Everything works for me. There's nothing about that movie that feels dated, other than maybe the fact that it's been black and white. But even then, there's black and white movies nowadays. And then finally, The Town. You've probably heard me talk about that one as well. I love the aspect of a brotherhood in movies. That's something that I hold dear to my heart. And then I also love the city of Boston for the movies, not the sports, because fuck the Red Sox and Celtics. But I love the city. I love being there. And I love movies that revolve around the city, just because I find some of them the most fascinating. And actually, there's a couple more in my top. I have a top 30 list that I rotate that are placed in Boston as well.
Yeah, man. That's all just a wide variety of films that I enjoy, most of those as well. The Town specifically is a movie I watched recently that I bought on Blu-ray kind of as a blind buy, because I'd heard, great things about it, obviously. I watched it for the first time, and I'm a big fan of crime dramas, right up there with science fiction as my favorite genre. And The Town, not only does it have great shootout sequences, but it really just builds up this great camaraderie between Ben Affleck, Jeremy Renner, and it's just a really exciting film, and it has an outstanding final act, just absolutely incredible.
It is great.
Really thrilling, really gets your blood pumping, and it's a really great film. And I feel like as time goes on, more and more people are really catching on to that movie and realizing just how kind of special it is, because obviously it was really prominent when it came out, but it's kind of been forgotten and kind of buried, because it came out right around like when MCU was peaking, and that kind of took over most threads. There we go, that's the word I was thinking of. But just a couple of movies I really like off the top of my head. I'm looking at my Letterboxd list right here, my 50 favorite films ever. But sometimes I feel kind of weird when I say that The Dark Knight is my favorite movie ever, because I feel like a lot of people are just like, oh, a comic book movie, you're just one of those guys. And it's like, The Dark Knight to me, like every time I watch it, I'm like, is this really my favorite movie ever? And then I see the film in its entirety, the interrogation scene comes on, and I'm like, this is it. Like, this is a movie that I feel like I'm going to just love at this level for the rest of my life, because it's just, to me, like, it's just more than just like a comic book movie. It's really just this great hero and villain dynamic, and it's something in a film that really just appeals to my taste. It has great characters, great direction, great villain. I always stress the importance of villains, not only in comic book movies, but just movies in general. And it's got great set pieces, great visual effects. It is just a dynamite movie, and a movie that I'm just going to cherish and love forever. I'll never forget the theater experience. I'll never forget the chills down my spine when Joker was recording the guy that he was interrogating. It was just incredible. And then just kind of another basic bitch pick, The Empire Strikes Back. The Empire Strikes Back, again, more than just like this fantasy film. It's just really got so many deep layers. It's got a mix of absolutely everything in it, between science fiction and comedy, drama, romance. It just does everything at such a perfect level. And the other day I had a coworker who's relatively new to Target, and I was kind of chatting to him about movies because he writes scripts, and I was like, "Have you seen Star Wars? What do you think?" And he said, "I've only ever seen A New Hope," and I like flipped out, and I was like, "Bro, you write scripts. You have to see the movies that like changed Hollywood forever, you know?" And so I kind of went on this like huge rant in a positive light about Empire Strikes Back and just how special of a movie that is. Again, another great villain. I don't like Vader as much in A New Hope, but in Empire, he's so good. And then just so much great character work and structure. Back to the Future, Arrival, Blade Runner, Lord of the Rings, Jurassic Park, Warrior, Casino Royale, and Whiplash are also some of my favorites ever. Blade Runner is one that I came around to just so recently that, you know, in prepping for 2049, I watched the final cut because I'd only ever seen the theatrical cut, and I was not a big fan of the theatrical cut. I just didn't care for it. Tedious, cold, without character, lacking soul. And then I watched the final cut. I just turned off my phone, just focused on the TV, and I said, wow, I really missed something here. So I bumped it up from like a 2.5 to a 4 out of 5. And then I watched it again the same week, the final cut, and I was like, oh my God, a 4.5. And then I watched it 2 more times within 2 weeks, and I was like, on Blu-ray. And by the way, the Blu-ray and 4K conversion for this thing is just absolutely incredible. But again, then it just really made its way into my top 10, right on the brink there. And it's just a really special film with, you know, it doesn't have the best character work, and it has a couple iffy moments, but it just really just appeals to why I love science fiction and why I feel like science fiction is subjectively the best genre in film, and kind of just what it conveys if it's done properly, like in a film like Arrival or Back to the Future or even Jurassic Park. So yeah, just those are just a couple of my favorite movies ever, man.
Yeah, Blade Runner is one that I had to come around on. I've only actually ever seen the final cut, but the first time I saw it was a couple years ago. I don't think my heart was really in it. I didn't really know what I was getting into. I heard, and I think like many people, I heard science fiction, Harrison Ford, Ridley Scott, the 80s, and I think it's an action film.
Yeah, and that's what that was my first thought too.
Yeah. It's 100% not what it is. It is a completely different film. So right before I saw Blade Runner 2049 this year, I sat down and watched it in my living room. No distractions, just watched it, and I fell in love with it. And then, of course, how can you not fall in love with 2049?
Yeah.
But yeah, those are some great movies. Funny thing is, I had just only watched The Dark Knight for the second time this year. And it was actually almost similar to Blade Runner. I wasn't expecting a different movie. I just didn't love Dark Knight the first time I saw it. Watched it again this year, and I ended up loving it. I did have to write an essay on it for school as well, and got an A+ on that essay too. So,
yeah, The Dark Knight is a movie I watch at least once a year. I try and not overdo it because I feel like sometimes when we just rewatch movies over and over and over again, sometimes you might kind of kill the value. So I kind of just spread it out nice and evenly. And I haven't seen it in the 4K transfer yet, so that's what I'm kind of waiting for the right time. So moving on to the next personal movie question. What is the movie or movies that made you fall in love with the art form?
Weird to say, because I don't think there's very little people in the world who don't like movies, but it's like another level the way we are. And I've only been a big movie fan, like following movies for 4 or 5 years now. I hadn't seen a lot of the classics before then, but I think it was really, if I had to pinpoint, it'd probably be around Interstellar is what really got into it. I wouldn't say that it was Interstellar itself that really got me into it. But it was around that time I remember I had really started to gravitate toward movies and watching a lot of movies and learning about the news and really realizing that this is the business that I want to get in. So Don't really know if that's the answer you're looking for, but I don't have one specific one that I can pinpoint, but that's around that time.
Yeah. Again, you kind of mentioned that even everyone who just watches comedies or dramas or stupid with Nicholas Sparks movies, everyone is a film fan in their own type of way, and there's always something that kind of appeals to them. But there's always like one moment in our lives for like people like me and you specifically that really genuinely care to like look at all like the different aspects of what goes into a film and visiting films from the 1930s and 40s. And there's always that one inciting incident that really kind of changes your perception of film, whether it's for good or bad. Like, for example, Jeremy Jahns, his life changed when he saw Revenge of the Fallen. And now he's as popular as he is. And for me, and again, this is a comic book movie, but it's a movie that really just made me realize just how divisive and how broad opinions can be in the movie landscape. And might get a little sappy here, but in 2013, it was the week of my birthday, and I had been looking forward to Man of Steel since the first trailer came out. And it was not only a great set of trailers, but great marketing in general. And when I saw that film, it was the last midnight screening ever for me. That's the last one I saw at a midnight screening at 12 a.m. And, you know, when I got out of that theater 2.5 hours later, I was truly blown away. I just felt like I had experienced something I had not seen before, but something that I just never thought I would experience in the genre. And it just really kind of changed my perception of how I view filmmaking. And it's the movie that introduced me to AMC Movie Talk, which, you know, they really expanded my vernacular and knowledge and insight into the industry and what goes into making films. And then later on, I started pursuing other channels and other, you know, pathways into, you know, filmmaking and the art and the medium and everything. And then we are where we are now with AMC and Collider. But, you know, that Man of Steel is the one that really kind of just changed, like, literally who I am and what I wanted to do for my future. You know, for a long time, I wanted to be a sports writer. And then Man of Steel just really inspired me to be a film writer instead. And that it's amazing how, like, a movie can just, or just one movie can just do that to you. And Man of Steel is the one for me. It just really changed my entire perception of the art.
Yeah, Man of Steel is one that I remember. I distinctly remember talking about it because I didn't love it as much as you do. I certainly understand why people do. But there's just certain aspects of it. Mostly that last act that I agree with the themes, not so much the execution. But I remember talking about this. I was in grade 12. Oh, no, maybe I was in grade 11. See, I guess maybe I don't distinctly remember. I remember being in a Spanish class and talking with the only other guy who was pretty big into comics and comic book movies, and we were discussing Man of Steel, and he was vehemently against it, and I was trying to defend it. So I do remember that movie very, very well as well.
Yeah, it's a movie that the next morning when I woke up going to sleep super happy because I was like, oh my God. Because like when the movie ended, I literally screamed out. I was like, that's the Superman movie we deserve. And people were looking at me really weird, but I just had so much emotion inside of me. And I just loved every second of it. I have some issues with it now, but I still love it just as much now as I did then. But when I woke up the next morning, I was reading a lot of negative reviews, obviously, and a lot of stuff on YouTube that I was just really confused by. So I just sat down. And I think I was 17, or I was just about to turn 17, so I was 16 at the time. And so I sat down in front of my computer in my mom's room and just made like a 35 to 45 minute rant video about why everyone was wrong and why like it's like the best Superman movie ever. And I was just literally I was reading just reviews, little excerpts from critics and saying, here's why you're wrong, Joe Thomas or whatever. So I don't have the video anymore, unfortunately, but I would love to just kind of resurrect that, just to kind of realize how far I've come as not only just kind of like a fake movie critic at this point, because I'm not technically a professional, but just how I kind of perceive film in general. So, yeah, man, movies are awesome. Next big question. Again, this could have multiple answers, but who is your favorite director and why?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I can't think off the top of my head who my favorite director would be of all time. Basic pitch answer might be Nolan. I've loved every single one of his films. But I feel like there might be a better one in there. Kevin Smith is super high on that. That might be the one that I would probably choose in pinch. But currently, I have one that definitively I have, and that's Denis Villeneuve. Easily, he's my current favorite director. Every single thing that he's done. I haven't seen Enemy yet, but the past 3-4 years, and even going back to some of his original Quebec films, has been masterful. From Sicario to Arrival to Blade Runner 2049. I'm staring at an Arrival poster right now. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah. I love the way he can inject themes into a movie while still staying true to the genre. Like Sicario is a crime, and even dips into the action a little bit here through and through, but it still has really incredible themes. And Rival is definitely a sci-fi film, but is not. It has more. Oh, and Blade Runner 2049 for that matter. It has more to it than just the sci-fi aspect. It's more than just an alien film. Blade Runner 2049 is more than just an android film. There's deeper themes, and he explores these masterfully. And I love the way he directs his films.
Yeah, and I feel like we can just kind of call this part of the segment the Denis Villeneuve Love Fest, because we've talked about it before. We know each other well enough in the movie space, and that he's my favorite director ever. And he's only directed, I believe, like 8 feature films, and he's got a couple smaller films out there that I've heard about that I really want to see. But just off of the 7 that I have seen, from Incendies to Arrival, he's a director that just really understands the art form in the most pure fashion. I don't know if you've seen the Blade Runner 2049 special features, but he said that when he brought on Roger Deakins, who ended up winning the Oscar, he said that he brought on Roger because not only did he believe in Roger as a cinematographer, but as a storyteller like him. So he just really puts a lot of belief in choosing the right people and saying, I trust you to make the right decision. Because he was even talking about how Ryan Gosling was one of the first people on his mind for Agent K. And we saw how that turned out. One of my favorite movie characters ever. And, it's just that he really understands how to convey themes properly. Sometimes he does get a little redundant, like in Prisoners. It does have a little bit of repetitiveness to it. But Prisoners... I can
see that in Prisoners, yeah.
Prisoners was the first movie I saw of his. And... because that was this crime drama, again, another genre that I really love, and it's got a great cast with my favorite actor, Jake Gyllenhaal. And he just really understands character work. He really understands subtlety. I'm working on a Blade Runner 2049 video editorial right now, and talking about how in 2049 he conveys the way that we feel as humans through the focusing of characters' hands in the movie, and how we use those to feel and kind of make decisions, and kind of how Joy is, she's transparent. And so when her big transparent figure is pointing at Agent K towards the end of the film, it's those emotions aren't real. He can see right through those. And the emotions that she was, conveying to him earlier in the film, they were transparent. And it's a really beautiful film, and he's got a really beautiful filmography. Again, he's done a really horrifying, kind of timely film in Polytechnique, which just, really just crushes your soul. Prisoners, it's a movie about, the figurative version of God and God and purgatory trying to save a child from the grasp of the devil. And it's he just really understands how to make truly great films. And if you haven't seen Enemy, you should really get on it soon. It's not the easiest of watches, but it's a movie that also I can kind of contend maybe got me into films just a little bit more on a deeper level, because after I saw that, I had to search up what I just watched because I had no idea. And then I rewatched it and I was like, okay, I really, really like this film, and I really kind of understand what it's conveying now. So yeah, he's just a great filmmaker, man. Stanley Kubrick is up there. Nolan, of course, and Fincher, Paul Thomas Anderson, just a couple more off the top of my head. Just all great filmmakers that really appeal to my taste, that all manage to find a way to just spread their cinematic language out over a variety of different genres that a lot of directors can't do today.
Yeah, I will say about Prisoners, that has got to be one of the most unsettling movies I've ever seen. Some of the torture scenes in there are just, I remember watching them and I just needed to take a break. I needed to pause it, take a break. I was like, this is a lot. And I'll never see Paul Dano. I still have not seen Paul Dano in a different light. I find it hard to watch him now just because I know, I've seen his performance in Prisoners, and it's bone chilling.
Yeah, he's what Villeneuve does, and I would always say that this is the biggest thing a director needs to do when focusing on making a film, is to really get the best performance out of your actors. And if you look at all of his films and you look at the characters he creates, every single performance is perfect. And that's the biggest thing. It's the same. It's why I love Nolan films as well, or one of the reasons why, of course. But he just really casts this film very well, and he knows how to pick a shot. I mean, I remember watching a video about Prisoners, and like there's a shot early on in the film where he's zooming up on a tree, and like everyone on set was like really confused as to what he was doing. And but again, like it's just, there's a purpose to everything he does, and a purpose to everything that a director chooses to do in their films. And he's just probably the best filmmaker we have right now. And he's so good. He's so good, man. So good answer. One more, and then we're gonna probably get ready to head on out of here after talking about maybe one more thing.
Okay.
Who is your favorite actor and why?
That is one that I definitely would need time to think about. Ben Affleck and might be up there. I'm still looking at my top 30, and he's in my top 10 3 times, with The Town, Good Will Hunting, and Dogma. So I really like Ben Affleck. But I don't want to fully commit to one actor without kind of thinking about it more. But for me, just in general, actors and actresses don't really draw me to the movies. It's more the names behind the camera or what's going on, with the exception of Alicia Vikander, but that's not because of her acting. I mean, she's a great actor. But I just,
Yeah, I understand. It is kind of difficult sometimes choosing a favorite actor or favorites, because there's a lot of actors that are just in so many films today. And I recently watched Crazy Stupid Love, which is just amazing.
Oh, it's great.
And I've really enjoyed Ryan Gosling for a long time now as an actor, and he became more than just the Notebook guy when I saw Drive. And sometimes when I watch him, I'm like, this guy, I think I would contend personally that he might be the best actor working today, but a lot of people wouldn't really, agree with me. And again, like, there's a lot of great actors working today, but Jake Gyllenhaal for me is someone who can just play just so many different types of people. Just looking at a film like Nightcrawler and looking at a film like Nocturnal Animals, or Nightcrawler and Zodiac, or Nightcrawler and Donnie Darko. I mean, just comparing just Nightcrawler, like the standard of just how insane he can be and how beautifully insane, because that performance deserves recognition and it didn't get it from the most prestigious award show, and I'm still upset about it.
Yeah, Nightcrawler?
But,
honestly, he should have been nominated for that.
Every time I watch that movie, I'm like, how did he nail that performance?
I don't know.
Like, it's so calculated and so precise that I honestly couldn't imagine anyone else in the role. And then you look at a movie like Donnie Darko as like a younger guy going through some troubles. Enemy, Brokeback Mountain, even, he's really good in that. And Southpaw, when he got super fit and everything. I mean, he's just someone who really is dedicated to the craft and the art of acting. And I feel like he's just somebody who, even though I know he's Jake Gyllenhaal, every time I watch him act, I'm seeing that character come to life. And then Ryan Gosling is right up there as well. I think he's someone that has the ability to play so many different types of characters, from someone like, in Crazy Stupid Love, and then he can play someone like Agent K or Driver from Drive, and he's just someone who's so versatile, and someone who, I'll be like, even if the movie has a crappy director, if Ryan Gosling or Jake Gyllenhaal are in it, I'll go see it.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal's in one of my favorite performances is his Source Code. I really love that movie, and I love him in it.
Yep.
And Gosling, if you haven't seen Half Nelson from, it's like 2004, it's one of his earlier performances. I think it might be pre-Notebook. He is really good there, and I think that if back then we had been paying a little bit more attention to the movie space, granted I was like 8 or something like that. I think even with his with the kind of Notebook reputation he got, you could look back at Half Nelson and say, oh yeah, this guy's definitely got talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's got a lot more films in his filmography that I really want to see, like Half Nelson. I want to see Lars and the Real Girl. I want to see Blue Valentine.
That's a heart-crushing movie.
That's what I heard. I'm really scared to watch that because I've been in a relationship for like 3 years, and I'm like terrified to watch that. But he's also in a movie like The Nice Guys, The Big Short.
Oh, I forgot
he's
about
just
that.
so he's just so versatile, man. He's just a truly amazing actor. And I know a lot of people don't agree with his nomination for La La Land, but every time I watch that movie, I think he's the best performer in the movie, better than Emma Stone. But
I prefer Emma Stone in that movie, but that's a topic for another day.
Exactly, man. Exactly. But one actor I just want to give props to who's really moving up in the ranks, Oscar Isaac, man.
Mm-hmm.
He is dynamite, even if he's in small roles, like in a crappy movie like Suburbicon. Anyways, moving on to the last thing before we head out of here. What is one movie that you watched recently, watched for the first time, a rewatch? What are you seeing this week? Anything along those lines? Something you want to praise, rave about, rant about that is movie related?
Well, in terms of movies I just watched, the most recent movie I watched was Lone Survivor a couple days ago. I really enjoyed that. Peter Berg is, I wouldn't say he's my favorite director, but he's someone who, when he puts out a movie, I'll go and see it and always be pleasantly satisfied. It's never something that's super, super incredible, but it's never bad, unless you talk about, Battleship, but I still haven't seen that. But yeah, Lone Survivor, I really enjoyed that. Normally, with as a Canadian, I don't really like movies that are, they really shove down, American patriotism down your throat. I think that's even if it was the other way around, even if it was a Canadian patriotism movie, I wouldn't like it. I feel like you serve the movie, not serve your whatever message or political ideal you're trying to send. But I didn't feel like it was too forced in this movie. I thought it was really, really well crafted, and maybe could have used a little bit more of characterization so I can actually tell some of the guys apart. But great action and a great story, great true story. So I really enjoyed Lone Survivor. And then later today, I'm actually going to see Ready Player One. I'm so excited to see it after hearing everybody rave about it, especially you. So I'm trying to keep my expectations down a bit because I've been known to get way too excited for movies and only get let down. So I'm going to try to keep it down a little. But other than that, I'm just finishing up school, so I'm trying to do some catch up. Yeah.
Not really too much for me. I was going to dedicate this time yesterday to talk about how excited I am for Ready Player One, because the other day I just got a really big surge of excitement for it, and then I found out that it was coming out last night. So luckily I got to work at 6:00 and I saw Ready Player One, and it really exceeded my expectations, because I have talked ad nauseum about how awful I thought the marketing campaign was. And watching the movie and then walking out, I was like really, really, truly surprised by, it's not subtle or anything, but I feel like it's a movie that it talks a lot about how just media is just kind of how we consume it, how we approach it, and how we kind of want to project ourselves into these worlds alongside a multitude of different characters, and immersing ourselves in new worlds and new sights and larger than life things that we don't see in reality. And it's a movie about escapism, and sometimes I don't like devaluing movies to saying, oh, it's just escapism. It allows me to get out from the real world. I shut everything off and just, visit these worlds. And it's like sometimes art can go a little bit deeper than that. But my best friend Tyler, he said the best thing about Ready Player One last night, and he said that Steven Spielberg with Ready Player One mastered the art of pure entertainment, because there's 3 different types of entertainment for me. And I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent here because we're kind of running a little bit longer than I anticipated.
That always happens. That always happens, trust me.
But Ready Player One is the best form of pure entertainment, because it has a little bit more lying underneath the surface, and it can be taken as more than just a popcorn flick. Yes, you've got spectacle. Yes, you've got the nostalgia. Yes, you've got pretty cool characters to enjoy the story with, but it commentates on how big time companies and studios are trying to industrialize the magic of the media that we consume. And it's something that I thought was really, really effective, especially for someone like Spielberg, who just channeled the inner, the younger version of himself that we all fell in love with before 2002 when he turned into a dad. He started making all these dad movies, and now all of a sudden Ready Player One comes out, and it's got these themes that, maybe dads would pick up on, but it's for the kids, and it's just a really damn good time at the movies, and I loved it. And then the second type of entertainment is, again, I don't want to sound like someone who's just, being a little redundant or beating a dead horse, but the second type of entertainment is right in the middle, where it's really great popcorn fun, but to me, there's not too much lying underneath the surface, and that would be Marvel movies and movies that I enjoy. Most of them I do enjoy, some of them I don't like at all, but again, like most of the time it's just entertaining, and I really enjoy entertainment like that. Would I like a little more, meat and a little more juice to it? Yeah, but again, like, you can only accomplish so much when you're trying to be something. And then there's entertainment like Pacific Rim Uprising or Rampage that are just going to be there to entertain, just to be silly, just to be dumb, like Fast and Furious, Fate of the Furious. And it's a type of entertainment I don't enjoy. So Ready Player One, Marvel movies, and Rampage and Pacific Rim Uprising, movies like that, they all have the same goal in mind, but they all accomplish something differently in the end. And I feel like those are three different types of entertainment, and I feel like Ready Player One nails it. Marvel movies get it just right, and then movies like Pacific Rim and Rampage just don't get it at all.
You're making it really hard to check my expectations for this.
Okay, so but also one of the other so a bad thing about Ready Player One, characterizations could be a little bit better there.
Okay, cool.
So,
and I heard you say that pacing wasn't so great, so
yeah, pacing's a little wonky,
and that's something that I pick up on movies. If I were to pick one technical aspect of the movies that it's pacing, because I will get bored in the theater very quickly. It's nice and cozy in there, cozy seats. It's dark. I may start to fall asleep in a really badly paced movie. So I'm hoping that
honestly, there's a lot of spectacle. The sound design is awesome. I think you're really going to dig it, but again, make sure you really do kind of check those expectations, because I've already talked to a lot of people that are like, oh, it's just overrated already, and it's like, it's not even getting that great of reviews. It's got good reviews, but not that great of reviews. But also going to check out Last Jedi on 4K. I've only seen it once, and I'm really excited to finally check it out again for the first time. So yeah, I'm going to be watching that tonight.
Awesome.
And that's pretty much it. That's it for the week. So anyways, that wraps it up. Almost hitting the 50-minute mark here. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to 45 to 50 minutes of us just chatting about the thing we love the most, and that's movies. Check out Ready Player One this weekend if you can. I know it's Easter weekend. It's going to be a little bit busy, but if you've got time, spend the money. Have a great time. It's really, really going to transport you back into what made you fall in love with so many different types of media in the first place. And then also be sure to check me out on Roman's Movie Reviews on Facebook. I just got my Ready Player One review up there. Also check out my personal Facebook page. I'm going to try and get this up onto Roman's Movie Reviews later, but I did like a 18-minute sort of dive into why I kind of love Star Wars The Last Jedi and how we perceive legends and how Rian Johnson sort of commentates on that. And then you can also find me on Letterboxd at RomanRBC as well. Matthew, you're the guest today. Go ahead and send us out of here with some plugs, man. Where can we find you?
You guys can first and foremost find my podcast on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you want to listen to your podcast. That's Chinqui Chats. So just my last name and then chats on the end. And then the hub for that is on my website, MatthewChinqui.pagecloud.com. You can find the links to my podcast there if you want to listen to it on desktop or on the iTunes or whatever. It's all, there's all the links there, as well as a blog that's going up occasionally when I'm not feeling lazy to supplement some of the episodes. Some of the most recent ones include a look into the Cloverfield's marketing, because I am a marketing student, so I like to get my insight into there. So talking about how Cloverfield has done something super unique, as well as another article looking into the business side of how they've went from not bankruptcy, but not doing so great in the early 2000s to becoming basically king of the world now within the span of 10, 20 years. It's really a fascinating story. So definitely check out my website, my blogs, and first and foremost, my podcast. That is my baby.
Yep. Yeah, man. Great stuff over there. You're always creating great content. I'm excited to look into that Netflix stuff. That sounds super fascinating. And then, again, your podcast is so great. Also, one last thing before we go, before I say goodbye for the week. Might have some changes coming next week. Maybe a new title. Maybe a new structure to the show. Again, I kind of just started these podcasts just to kind of get familiar. But I think... I don't know if I want to say ready, but I think I'm ready to kind of. I think I'm ready to kind of get ready to start moving this thing into turning it into my baby, kind of like how you turned Chinqui Chats into yours. I got some ideas swirling in my head, and I think it's going to pay off. I've been kind of testing out a few things. This is going to be up on YouTube, obviously, because that's where you're going to be listening to it, because that's the only way you can listen to it right now, because that's the only place it's at. So go ahead and subscribe. There's going to be more podcasts coming every Thursday or Friday, depending on how busy my schedule might get. And then keep enjoying movies, guys, and keep on listening. Thanks for listening once again, and have a most extraordinary Easter weekend.